on Law Weekly today, the discussions between the Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory High Court and lawyers involved in high-profile corruption cases. On our interview segment, we feature the views of a senior advocate of Nigeria, Oyetibo, on whether the country needs a coalition for Nigerian movement, as suggested by former President Olusegun Obasanjo in his now famous open statement to President Muhammadu Buhari. We also have Mr. Oyetibo's views on discipline in the legal profession and other issues. On the home stretch, we have our weekly recap of the top trending stories from the courts. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the program. I am Shola Shoyeli. One of the interesting news of the week was the open statement of former President Olusegun Obasanjo to President Muhammadu Buhari. It has predictably continued to attract so much reactions and comments. After detailing some of the shortcomings of the president, former President Obasanjo suggested that the country needs a coalition for Nigeria. Such a movement at this junction needs not be a political one, but one which all well-meaning Nigerians can belong. My guest on the program today, Mr. Oyetibo, agrees with the former president. Mr. Oyetibo is well known in the legal circles for his integrity and professional skills, especially in the area of dispute resolution, particularly litigation and arbitration. He was conferred with the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria in 2003. In this interview, he shares his views on the former president's letter and other topical issues.
There's no doubt that the government of the day has dealt sufficient blows on PDP that it will be very difficult for PDP to rise on its feet. Give it to former President Obasanjo. You can say that he's self-centered. You can say that he is self-glorifying, so to speak, in terms of his political interventions from time to time. But the truth of the matter is this: if you run a blue pencil on all of those and look at the message that he has passed across, I do not think anybody in Nigeria will disagree with him. It's unfortunate that it is coming from him, and that may not make majority of the people to look at the merit of the message. But as I've said, let us forget about the messenger, as it is usually said, and look at the message. I think he has just hit the nail on the head. That's what he has done. I think the time has come. The idea that politicians who participated in 1979, 1980, 1989 are still in the heat of politics in Nigeria today speaks volume about today's youth. I don't think we should have the old generation again taking hold of governance in Nigeria anymore. Look around the world and look around Nigeria. They are quite very able and capable young men, middle-aged men who can run Nigeria. And I think those old generations just allow the new generation to run Nigeria. The old generation has failed. That is the truth of it. Let a new generation run Nigeria. And I think that's what I believe in.
One of the areas where people fault President Muhammadu Buhari is his handling of the farmers and the herdsmen clashes. And some people think that the anti-open grazing bill is at the root cause of the violence. But I don't know, what do you make of the whole issue? And especially, can the federal government compel the states to release their land for either cattle ranch or colonies?
No. The correct answer to that is no. The federal government cannot compel any state to release land. The federal government has power to acquire land for public purposes, but the federal government cannot acquire land to give to private individuals. That is not in consonance with the provisions of the law. But having said that, I think it's important also that we take a holistic look and view of the problem. Leaving politics aside, I think most of the governors should try as much as possible to take a dispassionate look at the problem. First, I will contend that every Fulani herdsman who is a Nigerian has a right to rear or breed his cattle in any part of Nigeria in exercise of the right of a citizen of Nigeria. And each governor should appreciate that fact. But having said that, it must not be at the expense of the locals who own their own farms. Cattle that they breed or rear produce meat, red meat, that people consume. So you need them, isn't it? But they also need the consumers to be able to make their money. You must not make your money at the expense of my own source of income. So the government must come in to strike a balance. I rather suggest a situation in which the government comes in every state, enacts a law that regulates the grazing in the state, provide for the registration of cooperatives in each state, and each herdsman should register with a cooperative to show the statistics, information about him, his name, his place of place of residence, if any. Many of them are nomadic anyway. So if they don't have specific homes, there must be regulations if you are passing this through this particular state. And if you are going to rear your cattle within my state, I will expect that you will wear a badge, a face, so that whoever sees you will know who you are. If you are not carrying that badge, then you'll be treated as a criminal. That's a statutory regulation of grazing in the state. Now, coming to ranches, I think it is better to have individual ranches because it's actually a private business, okay, for individuals. Because the moment you create a special system whereby you take the lands of the people and say this is a colony, if you look at the history of Nigeria, the expression, the phrase cattle colony suggests a negative connotation as to people coming to colonize another set of people. I think the suggestion, the use of that expression should not have been introduced from the beginning. That probably sent the wrong signals to the states. So if the government had handled it dispassionately, maybe there would have been no suspicion that what is the intention? Why do you want to come and